which NFL teams are making the playoffs and who's staying home. It's Who's In, Who's Out on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's football station.
These are the 12 teams we think will make the NFL playoffs, the 4 division champions from each conference, and 2 wild card teams. We started off in the AFC with the Patriots each and every week. They get top billing, although, boys, they're just 1 game up, and the Bills have a game at hand over the Pats.
And they're playing Colin Kaepernick, so the Bills are going to go on a run. But the Pats are going to win that division.
Yeah, I have the Pats in. I've had the Pats in since week 1. New England. They find a way to win without Tom Brady. They find a way to win with
he only had 400 yards this week after sunbathing nude.
And he went
burned ass. He goes out there and throws for 406.
Oh, he wasn't alone.
No, I'm not.
Shockingly, has a supermodel wife.
He said he no longer plans on sunbathing.
Super athlete life. He even went to Michigan during his time off and had a nice time there. Did you see the Michigan Rutgers score?
I did see the Michigan Rutgers score.
Did you guys see Ted 2?
Ted 2, the movie? Yeah, sure.
Yes. You remember the part where
Tom
they were
Brady scene at the end?
Yes, the Tom Brady scene.
Well, he's golden.
He's got everything, people. He's got everything. We'll just say that.
Let's go to the north, where Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, we've all at least had one of those teams in the North champion spot. I'm going Pittsburgh this week. They're a plus 46. They're 4-1. The only team that's beaten them is the Eagles. They've won 2 in a row. Right now, I don't know that there's a guy playing better than Ben Roethlisberger.
He's on your fantasy team, too. I know that because you're so pleased. Get me some iron.
Because the rest of my team stinks.
Get me some Iron City beer because, or what was it, the Primanti brothers?
Primanti brothers.
Primanti.
I've been on that bandwagon.
It's an Iron City ale.
Pittsburgh. And even with their loss to the Eagles, I thought they'd bounce back. They did in a big way. And you're right, Mike Gill. Roethlisberger looks amazing. And Antonio Brown had a rather pedestrian game, and they still found a way to win.
Can you imagine if they had, what's the bonehead who got suspended for the year? Martavius Bryant.
Yeah. And Le'Veon Bell, since he's been back the first 3 games. By the way, Pittsburgh wins the division. Also, talking about good cities, very underrated downtown.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's got a nice downtown.
I've been there once. It was for a Nebraska-Pitt game, and there was so much rain that you couldn't take the water taxi over, and they were worried the water was going to come into the stadium.
That's bad.
That was not a scenic weekend.
Been to the Igloo a few times. Saw Billy Joel at the Igloo there, PT.
I think that's pretty cool.
Saw their Flyers Penguins game at the Igloo. And also broadcast a game, play-by-play, at Three Rivers Stadium.
Now that's cool.
And the 3 rivers coming together, it just looks great. And the fact you can normally take a water taxi to the game is awesome.
Yeah, when you come through the mountain and it splits open and you see all the rivers, it's a pretty cool town.
Can you name those?
All right, let's go to the south.
Mahogany.
Where it's really hot.
Did you hear that?
Ohio comes in.
Right. The Allegheny, the Ohio, and
the Monongahela.
He got it.
Yeah.
Well,
I was close.
I lived on it.
John's answer was
in the south. Let's go to Houston, where it's really.
I got Vai's name.
I hear that's a really great American city as well. Houston. I go Houston.
House of Pies.
Yes.
Rice, SMU. SMU in Houston? No, they're in Dallas. House of Pies, the Galleria. I've had Houston in. Let's see here. I'm trying to go back to week 1. Week 1, I was an idiot. I had a.
Well, Houston gets waxed against Minnesota.
It's a bad division.
And yeah, exactly. And Brock Osweiler looks as bad as you can look, and they're still the prohibitive favorites.
And they play Indianapolis next.
Yeah,
a team that is not the gold standard.
By the way, they're only a game up on Tennessee and Indianapolis. Yeah. So it's not like they're running away here.
They're not running away with it, but yet they're not playing that well, and they're still winning.
And in that division, they're a minus 22. Tennessee's only a minus 9. Indianapolis is a minus 11, and Jacksonville's a minus 27. So Houston not looking like they are pulling away, but I agree that I think Houston's still the best team, although Brock Osweiler,
terrible.
That's a bad buy right there. All right, in the West, this is an interesting one, guys, because I had Kansas City to start the year. You got the defending Super Bowl champs, but now you got this sneaky other little team in there. 3 straight, they're 4-1, and the Raiders are in first place, but I'm going to stick with Denver for now. I like Denver's defense, so I go Denver's defense is good enough to propel them over Oakland.
I thought their defense was the reason that they would win the division again. Despite their first loss of the season to the Falcons, I still think that their defense takes pressure off of their offense and propels them to a lot more victories than not. And I have Denver in there for another week. Denver winning the AFC West.
Yeah, I mean, they have some issues. Obviously, Paxton Lynch is not ready, so you have to get Trevor Siemian back in the lineup. The head coach is having migraine issues. He's not going to be there this week.
And they play Thursday night.
But come on. I'm not picking the Raiders over the Broncos just yet. Denver still wins the AFC West.
Denver's given up 137 points. That's very skeptical about their defense. But right now, in the wild card spot, I got two teams from the West. I'm going Kansas City and Oakland in the West. Over Cincinnati, I bounced out, and Baltimore, I've bounced out, although there's another sneaky team that people might have to put their eye on, too. Those Buffalo Bills. Either of you two got them in?
I do not have them in. I have Oakland and Baltimore in. Now, the Baltimore pick is a tough pick to make, given the fact that they just lost at home to the Redskins and that they've fallen to 3-2.
They lost at home to the Raiders, too.
However, I will say this. Well, I have the Raiders in, but Baltimore did fire their offensive coordinator.
That seems to be the trick
Preston,
in the NFL.
And
Fire your
that's the
coordinator.
trick to getting wins, because Buffalo fired Greg Roman, and now they've gone on a hot streak.
Interestingly, PT, last time Baltimore did that was in 2012. After they lost to the Washington Redskins, they fired Cam Cameron, brought in Jim Caldwell, won the Super Bowl. Is that going to happen this year? No.
No. But
Oakland Raiders, one wild card team. Cincinnati Bengals, despite the fact they got
Wow,
waxed.
you still have the Bengals in there?
I am still hanging on for one more week.
I'm ashamed of myself that I didn't keep the Bengals in there. I really like that team. But you lose to Dallas like that, you're dead to me for a week. Just for the week, Cincinnati. You'll be back on my good side pretty soon, I'm sure. All right, let's go over to the NFC. Start at the West. We roll up. I go Seattle. I was skeptical of Seattle because of some injuries. Not talent, injuries on that team. Offensive line issues, banged up Russell Wilson. Defense, not the same. But Wilson makes me feel better, warm and fuzzy. Arizona, very skeptical of all of a sudden of them. So I'm going Seattle in the West.
Not leaning toward the LA Rams, huh?
They had their shot to win at home this week. That would have been interesting if they were 4-1, how this would have gone.
Great coaching decision by Jeff Fisher, as usual.
I had Seattle in. I'm still riding the Seattle train. You know, I had Seattle in the last couple of weeks. Early in, I had the Arizona winning the West way back in week 2, but I've given up on the Cardinals.
Now, I'm with Seattle as well, and I agree with Mike. It's not the same Seattle team, and it has more to do with the rest of the division. Arizona taking a huge step back, and as I said, I'm in the I'm with Dion Long and the fan club for Jeff Fisher. I don't believe in the LA
Well,
Rams.
they've only given up 54 points this year, so you got to at least still believe in their defense. South.
I believe in Aaron Donald.
We go to the South. You got the defending NFC champs, the Panthers in last at 1-4. Is there going to be a new division champion? I turned my eye on this team, my back on them all year last year, but I'm warming up to the Dirty Birds.
Never count out the Atlanta Falcons. I've had them in week 3. I had them in week 4. I have them again in week 5. They have a nice win as they hand Denver their first loss. Matt Ryan, another strong game. Tevin Coleman, a nice game. And if they go to Seattle and they're able to win there, and very few teams can win in the Pacific Northwest in the 12th man and how loud that atmosphere is. They win there. They win against San Diego. They've got a big step forward.
Collectively, the worst defensive division in football.
Yeah, you got to go with Atlanta. The way they're playing, the fact they beat the Super Bowl champions on the road. You mentioned the week before dominating with the 500-yard passing performance, the 300-yard game from Julio Jones. And they got, as Teron Davenport mentioned, they got 3.5 sacks from Vic Beasley, so they're getting a pass rush. All of a sudden, the Falcons are looking like they're going to run away with that division.
Go on the road and win in Denver. You get a little props from me. I'll give it to the Falcons after blasting them all year last year, even at 6-0. I didn't buy into them. I'll give them a little tip of the cap this time. You give me a little high heat this time. All right, North. Had the Vikings at the start. I'm not changing now. Minnesota wins the North.
Vikings are coming off what they were supposed to do, which is roll up big over Houston at home. And look, you tell me where the Vikings' loss comes. Maybe against Philadelphia, but it doesn't look like it's going to come against the Bears or Detroit, or they look superior to Washington. They look superior to Arizona. Then they go to Detroit again.
I mean, go undefeated?
I'm not saying that. No, they're not the 72 Dolphins, but they're certainly the class of that division. They certainly are getting the job done.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're the best team in football. They got some serious offensive line issues, and the NFL's a week-to-week proposition. They're on their bye this week. Then they come to play the Eagles. I'm not going to say the Eagles can't beat them. It's not a good matchup, but that defense is going to keep them in games. The question is, can that offense?
Here's a question. I had them making the playoffs with Sean Hill. I thought their defense was good enough. But are they 5-0 with Sean Hill?
No.
I think Bradford's
played great.
Does Bradford get a credit here?
He's perfect for that offense. He's perfect for what
Bradford gets credit for this
and a little bit to Stephon Diggs too.
Well, the thing is, he's been getting the ball out quickly because Sam's a bright guy, and he realizes they have a lot of injuries up front. But it's funny how one of the big criticisms of Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is an ascending young quarterback. He held on to the football too long. Sam realizes, hey, get it out of your hands. If it's not a completion, live to play for the next down. That's what he's done better than anything else, and that's why they're 5-0.
All right, in the East, had them last week, sticking with them again.
How about them Cowboys?
Good sounder there. I did not have them last week. I had the Philadelphia Eagles, and despite their 1-point loss to the Lions, I am sticking with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles are able to pull off a win in Washington, regain momentum, and maybe beat Minnesota at home and get back to their winning ways. I like the Eagles slightly over the Cowboys. The Cowboys are in my playoff picture, though.
No, I go Dallas. They proved a lot to me in that game against Cincinnati.
All right, I got the trump card. Dallas, they're going to be on Dak Prescott's going to be on Sports Illustrated.
He is going to be on Sports
Illustrated. So that tells you right there that they're totally whammied.
Yeah. We're definitely going to get the first Dak interception at some point. I will predict
that. He had a turnover.
At some point. Yeah, they're good. They're a good team offensively. And right now, you have to say they're playing the best. And the Eagles have some, let's face it, they have some adversity.
No doubt.
Lane Johnson suspension, first loss, and a tough schedule coming up.
All right, the wild card teams. Everybody's in play in the East. Washington, New York. You've got Green Bay. You've got a 2-3 Detroit team. You've got a 2-3 Bucks team. You got a 3-2 Rams team, a 2-3 Cardinals team, and I guess Carolina, you got to see at 1-4, even though you seem like out. They were the defending champs last year, so you'll throw them in. Only 2 of those teams are wild cards. I'm going Green Bay and Philadelphia.
And just as the opposite of that, I'm going Green Bay and Dallas because I have Philadelphia winning the division. Green Bay's been easy to stick into the wild card every week because Minnesota's so good.
Yeah, and I'm going Philadelphia, Green Bay, but I'm having Philadelphia ahead of Green Bay. Green Bay, the last team. Aaron Rodgers has quietly not played well this season.
98 points for the Packers. That's it. That's worst. Well, Chicago's in the division. Second worst in the division there. All right, that's this week's Who's In, Who's Out. They are the 12 teams we think will make the playoffs this year, and we'll, of course, keep that up to date with you every Tuesday here on the Sports Bash.